Hi, everyone, and welcome to AI Horizons today. So my name is Zach Lonsinger. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a learning experience designer here at Teaching and Learning with Technology. And it's so great to see so many of you joining us today. It looks like we're at 190. We're going to be quickly over 200 here. We have an amazing turnout for today's session. Before we get started, I want to give a special welcome to those of you who are joining us for the first time. Whether you're here because you're curious about AI, already using it in your work, or just exploring what it all means, you're in the right place, and we're really glad that you came here today. And since this is a Zoom session, let's make it feel a little more connected. Go ahead and drop in the chat where you're joining us from today. It's always great to see the reach of this community across Penn State. And if you have any questions during today's presentations, make sure to put them in chat. We will have time for a short Q&A. Sometimes we'll answer those directly in chat. And for those of you who are new, I wanted to give you just some historical context for what AI Horizons is. So this is a community of practice hosted by Teaching and Learning with Technology. We created this space to bring together faculty and staff from across the university who are curious about or experimenting with or just trying to make sense of what AI is and how it's shaping our teaching, our learning, and our work. We have a vibrant online space in Microsoft Teams, so if you haven't found your way there yet, check out the online space. People are always posting questions. We have folks helping others, collaborating. So there's a lot of great resources and content over in the team space. And each month we come together like we're doing right now to explore new ideas, share examples, have open conversations, not just about the AI tools, but about the questions and challenges and opportunities that come with them. We hope that this is a space built on curiosity and collaboration and community. Okay, so now before we jump in, I have a little update. I know we marketed today's session as meeting with the provost, Sotiropoulos, but I do want to share that the provost had an urgent matter requiring his attention and regrettably had to cancel a little bit ago. So we completely understand and we hope to welcome him back at a future session. But to make the most of our time together today, we'll begin with the AI Coordinating Council, who is going to present after the provost. So we're moving them up. And they're going to share updates on the university's ongoing AI literacy efforts. After that, I'm going to step in and share a little bit about TLT resources and initiatives and some updates on AI and what we're doing, especially for those of you who are new here. Once I wrap up, I'd love to open the floor to all of you to share your own resources or ideas or projects, and hopefully invite some conversation or some collaboration opportunities around all the resources that we're going to share. So again, thank you for being here. And with that, let's go ahead and get started with the AI Coordinating Council. Joining us today are Dr. Crystal Ramsey, Senior Director of Teaching and Learning with Technology, David Ginhart, Associate Vice President for Administrative IT, and Dr. Mehrdad Mahdavi, Assistant Professor of Computer Science and Engineering and Director of the AI Hub. The Council has been deeply involved in coordinating AI literacy initiatives, supporting collaboration across units, and helping set the vision for how Penn State engages with AI at every level. So with that, I'll hand things over to Crystal, David, and Mehrdad to share some updates and insights from the Council's work. Thank you.
Thank you, Zach, for a lovely intro and a terrible intro. And I say that because we have 240 people who came to hear from the provost at 2 p.m. and he can't make it. So Crystal, you go next. That was what was implied in the intro. No, thank you, Zach. We did talk about how to approach this time today, and we are so excited that everybody's here. And like Zach said, we'll work on finding an alternative time for the provost. But to make the most of the time, we hope we have some good information for you. We have some updates from the Coordinating Council in two particular areas, and that's what we really wanted to share with everybody today. So as Zach said, the tri-chairs of the Coordinating Council are myself, Dave Ginhart, Mehrdad. We are not the only people who know stuff about what's going on at the university. We're not the only people who know things about AI. This room is absolutely filled with other people in that same, that are characterized in that same way. So please make use of the chat as you'd like to. So The update from us today is going to focus on two things, AI literacy and an AI ecosystem for the university. So let me start with this. I'm going to provide us a little bit of an update on the literacy front. So Provost Soteropoulos established 6 initial goals in August. These are not the end game. There will be many more goals, I have no doubt, that will be forthcoming. But we share these because these are the first ones, the initial crack at some really important foundational goals. And so literacy, you will see, and many of you will know because you've seen this slide before in a variety of places. The first one focuses on literacy for students, first-year students. By fall 2026, we have a plan in place, and then literacy for all students by fall 2027. We have a plan for that. For faculty members and administrators. And then goal number 5 is one around AI literacy for staff. So what's important about this is that we know there are literacy efforts happening in many places at the university. What's important about this is our attempt to kind of raise all ships and really intentionally target literacy across the university. So the update that we wanted to share is that there are 4 task forces working on broad system-wide literacy goals, those that I just mentioned. And we have so here they are. We have a staff upskilling group, a task force on AI for faculty and administrators, a task force on undergraduate AI literacy, a grad council, ad hoc committee on AI. And so what the message here is that it has been as representational as we could make it at the time we need to pull these together. So we have Penn State IT represented, HR, university libraries, general education, teaching and learning, faculty affairs, the AI hub, the grad school, Commonwealth campuses, the med school. So you see leadership here only as a way to kind of show who has been leading these efforts, but on the various task forces, we've had some great representation and great participation. So the initial reports have either already been submitted or they'll be submitted in the coming days, meaning probably within, by early next week. So those are initial reports from these groups, sort of conceptualizing how we might do this. Those are really aggressive goals. And then following these reports and depending on how they are received and accepted and whatever feedback comes from university leadership, then implementation committees will be charged. So what we wanted to say, we wanted to offer a little bit of a mental model to the community as a way to help think about how we've been thinking about AI literacy broadly. And that is that collectively, we've adopted a core AI literacy framework based on 2 national models. And the primary one is Leo Lowe's AI Literacy for All framework that was augmented then by the EDUCAUSE AI literacy framework. So we looked at those and we adopted an AI literacy framework for the university, which is really exciting because basic literacy is basic literacy. And so we didn't have to really reinvent this. We just had to choose something that would make sense for us. And so we figure that a unified foundation predicated on and built on this literacy framework and the competencies that are part of it will allow for tailored growth. And you can see that kind of building up this tree for audience-specific needs for faculty, for students, for staff. So beyond the basic, we know there are particular things faculty need to know about AI literacy at Penn State. There's particular things students need to know that would fall under the umbrella of AI literacy at Penn State as a student, and then for staff as well. And so after that, again, kind of going up this tree, and especially as we get to the smaller branches and the more specific leaves, that's when we get more specific and we can target disciplines and purposes and specific, more niche kinds of things that nobody sort of centrally would really know how to do. That takes individuals in their roles, that requires disciplinary expertise to make those decisions, and to know what students need for readiness and so forth. So at any rate, tailored growth as we move from the core to the audience specific to the audience agnostic in some ways, and becomes more discipline and purpose specific. So that's what we wanted to share as a way for kind of how we're thinking about this. And like I say, we have implementation teams that will be charged soon. One thing I would say that we're still working on is we're exploring what it would mean to identify, adopt, create. All of those words are still open. Content that aligns with the framework. So when we have the framework, what would it mean if we had core content that aligned with that? The nice part about that is if we had core content, the whole bottom half of this graphic would be established basically centrally, or would be agreed upon. It would be audience agnostic. And then as we go further up this tree to the audiences and then to the disciplines, it could be more, we would need more distributed and specialized focus, but then everybody could build on the core. So that's the plan. That's where we are. That's the update. There's nothing really very linear about all that's happening right now. We wish it was linear, but it's not. But I think it's important. We wanted to share the update with you where we are. So I would say, Merda, Dave, anything you might like to add? And I will tend to any questions that might have come up in the chat, or however else anybody wants to talk about this.
No, that was great, Crystal. The only thing I would add is, these leaves don't necessarily have to be Penn State content. They could be content that's available from other universities or for commercial sources or that are publicly available. So we recognize that there is a lot of content available to us, but now having it within this framework and understanding how it fits in the broader Penn State framework and with respect to our competencies, I think will be really helpful. I think the other part is we recognize that as you get into these branches, we go beyond very basic literacy and understanding the basics of AI. We start to get into more advanced uses of it that, as Crystal said, is more discipline or role or functional specific, but it also becomes more advanced beyond what you would see in kind of standard literacy. And so I don't know if that's fluency. I mean, we haven't necessarily decided on that terminology, but we recognize that what would be provided centrally would be the most basic of introductions to AI.
There was a question about the literacy framework that's hyperlinked in the slide. So I guess that's actually the answer. Yes, it is hyperlinked in the slides. So when the slides are made available, you can click into that. And when I'm finished sharing, I will drop it into the chat. Thanks, Logan, for that question. Okay. Shall we go on, Dave?
Sure. Let's talk about tools. Popular topic. I expect to get a lot of feedback on this. And happy to take your questions and realize that, as Crystal said, this is not as linear as we would like. There's a lot of things happening in parallel and happening pretty quickly, especially since August, frankly. Since FOTUS arrived, we have really amped up our AI planning efforts and increased the speed of them, which is great. So when I think about AI, and this is kind of Dave Ginhardt's view of the world, I don't have a reference to this, but this has been helpful as I've tried to communicate out. We use the term AI, but it means a lot of things to a lot of people. And so I'm thinking about generative AI mainly in three buckets, and I'm showing those kind of levels in this pyramid. The first level is the AI that's going to be embedded just in all the tools that we use. So we've got it in Zoom now. It's going to show up more and more in Microsoft Office. In things like Workday, you're going to see it more and more. I've just put a handful of kind of more administrative tools in there, but frankly, every tool we use, and oh, by the way, our phones and our computers are going to have AI built into them. And so, whatever workflows and processes you're doing with those tools are going to become AI enabled. And we're typically not paying extra for that. It's something that's being added into those tools by the vendors. Every software vendor's got AI in their roadmap. And so we're going to get the value from those tools almost automatically just by using those tools. And they'll make us more efficient for those individual, workflows and business processes and tasks that we do within those tools that are not necessarily AI tools. It's AI embedded inside of those tools. The next layer up, and this is where we spend a lot of time talking, is what I'll call the AI productivity tools. The Chat GPTs and the Copilots and the Geminis and the Claudes. These are the tools that you're chatting with, or maybe you're doing, voice with them, but each individual person is using them to try to be more productive in whatever their tasks are. And some of the tools offer ways to build things and to share things and to collaborate, but a lot of it is about individual productivity. And depending on the kind of job you have and which study you're looking at, individuals can get 10 to 30% more productive if they're in kind of a knowledge worker role. 10 to 30% more productive in using those tools. And so we as a university, and frankly every organization, is thinking about how do we get these tools in people's hands so they can become more productive. I mean, who doesn't want to be 10 to 30% more productive in their jobs? We as individuals want that because we have a lot of work to do, and we as an institution want to be more productive. And I'll talk probably the rest of the time about this kind of level of productivity tools. And then the top part of the pyramid is what I call transformational AI. And so this is not embedding some AI into your business process and getting a little bit more productive. This is rethinking things, business processes and workflows and business models with AI. Let's say this is going from a 100-person call center. A company might have a 100-person call center to they're going to have 5 people and a whole bunch of AI bots, right? That would be transformational AI, really rethinking how they deliver a product or a service. And obviously, companies are investing a lot in that. And what we're seeing in the data that's being reported back is there are certainly pockets of people getting a lot of return on that investment. But on the whole, on average, there's not as much return as many expected. And it's taking more time. And so those investments are a little more risky. There's potential upside for them. But again, they're not magic. And speaking as an IT person, I think part of the reason is these are hard IT projects. IT projects involve business process change and organizational change and changing how you skill your workers and how you interact with your customers. And those things don't change overnight. And it takes time, and they're hard. And it's usually not just AI that's involved in those transformations. There's automation technologies and integrations. And so they're a little different than some of the other parts of the pyramid. And so we certainly want to be doing things in that space, but I think we want to be thoughtful about where we make those investments because the payback is there, but it's maybe not as readily apparent and it's not as quick as maybe some people are hoping. And I get a little nervous when people talk about, well, we're going to use AI to do this. And they often don't have this understanding of kind of those different levels. Now, I'm saying this about the current set of AI tools. As the tools evolve and change, this may look very different. So this is kind of like Dave Genhardt's view of the world at the end of 2025. This is certainly changing. But this has been helpful as I've communicated with people about trying to get our minds around AI. And I think it'll help frame, when we talk about AI tools, what I'm talking about, which is really that middle layer. Yeah, thank you, Carrie, for your comment about data. It's another huge reason why transformational AI is hard, is without good data to either train the model or having access to, you're not going to get the kind of gains that you're hoping to get from it. So thank you. Okay, next slide. Crystal, can you go? Okay, awesome. And so let's talk about Penn State a little bit and some of the challenges that we're facing. Right now, the only tool that's available to everyone at the university is Microsoft Copilot. So we have that as part of our Microsoft contract, and it's available kind of for free. I mean, we're not paying extra for that. And I recognize that there are some add-on, more advanced features available in Microsoft 365 Copilot. And that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the basic Copilot service available through the web that is available to everyone, faculty, staff, and students. But I think a lot of people have used those tools and it hasn't met everyone's needs. And so I think if you talk to people, I think they sense that there's some gaps there. It's really good to get people started. But as we try to do some more advanced things, sometimes it falls a little bit short of what we'd like. And at the same time that we have a little bit of a gap here on the tool side, we're ramping up our literacy efforts. So Crystal mentioned that we've got the 3 literacy committees, we've got these goals around literacy, a lot of effort there around literacy. And so the question is, well, what tools are we going to teach as part of the literacy? Because one of those 4 components in that framework in the roots that Crystal showed is basic knowledge of how to use these tools, practical knowledge in using, chat tools. So what tools are we going to use? That third bullet speaks to the challenge that we hear, and I'm not a faculty member, I work on the administrative side, but I hear this frequently, is the challenge of the 2-tiered system within the classroom. If you're giving assignments, whether you're encouraging the use of AI or it's just being used, some students are using what's available to them through, let's say, Microsoft Copilot, or maybe they have a free version of ChatGPT. Others are paying for pro versions. And there are differences in the capabilities of those tools. And so we're starting to create an equity problem within the classroom of who has access to what tools based on their ability to pay for those tools. And so we've seen a lot of universities lean in on this particular issue around student equity with more offerings for students. And so again, I'll talk a little bit more about some work we're doing to look at that particularly. And then on the faculty and staff side, lots of people are using tools, they're purchasing them, they may be purchasing multiple tools. Some are buying with their own personal funds, some are buying with university funds, they're using for personal reasons and university reasons. It's kind of messy. And I think there's a recognition that Penn State could offer more tools that could potentially help with both the equity issue and kind of the clarity issue on tools. So anyway, those are some of the challenges that we're facing with respect to generative AI tools.
Dave, I just want to interrupt you and let you know, but before you go on, especially as you were talking about challenges, there are a few comments in the chat, and I don't know what would be your preference, whether you want to maybe have a look at those at the end, or if you might like to just look at those now, since it does kind of relate to challenges.
Okay. I'm seeing one that looks like from Patsy that Suchi was able to answer. So thank you, Suchi.
Yeah. I did address
Question
one
about
about the Copilot. Go ahead,
I'm
Dave.
sorry, go ahead.
No. I think we're trying to team up in the chat as best we're able.
Yeah, so I see Jonathan's comment about availability of the Microsoft 365 Copilot on Office computer versus classrooms. So it's a good question. I don't have a good answer on that one. Yeah,
There's one, a little bit deeper one from Pansy Leung, and maybe you could have a look at that one after your presentation. It's a little bit more specific.
yeah, and it looks like Suchi maybe was able to
Oh, good. Okay.
address that a little bit. Thank
Okay.
you. Yeah, just to be clear on terminology, there's Microsoft 365 Copilot. You can go to a web browser, open up copilot.microsoft.com. It'll log you in. You've got a Penn State, because we have a contract, it'll recognize your Penn State login. You have data protections there, so you can process up to level 2 data in there. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And that is different than kind of the Microsoft 365 add-on, which is $30 per person per month. That has it's got higher usage limits. It's got some deeper integration in the Microsoft Office 365 suite, but it is an additional cost per person per month. And Derek, thanks for your comment about integrating tools. So yes, we do have a review process as we turn on AI features and tools. So before we turned on AI in Zoom, we did a risk assessment on that. We did initial one around Top Pat also that Derek is referencing. And because of that review, we identified that we needed to do a pilot and do some additional learning before we released it more broadly. Yeah, I tell you what, I'm gonna maybe let others kind of to group if we can crowdsource some of these answers.
Yeah, that's fine. And I
I'm gonna,
think that some of the questions are actually good segues to what you're going to talk about next.
yeah,
So,
absolutely. Okay, next slide, please. So it's a little bit busy of a slide, but let me kind of walk through it. I think of these AI tools in different tiers. And so at the bottom is the free tier. These are your free versions of ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini. You get some basic capabilities. You don't really get any security guarantees. Information put in there can be used to train their models unless they give you the ability to turn it off. They have very severe usage limits. So if you've used these at all, you will run out of credits just about the time you need to get the answer from it. I hear stories all the time of students, having multiple accounts under different email addresses, so they run up to the quote on one, and they'll switch to another. And this is generally where we don't want people using those tools, except if they're using data that is publicly available, non-confidential, but you're going to run into these usage limits. At the next tier up, what I'll call the basic enterprise tier. Right now, that's our Microsoft Copilot offering. It's got some basic capabilities. It has stronger security. So you're able to put FERPA data in there, personnel data, financial data, what we call level 1 or level 2 data, which is um, more restricted data above public data, but not things like personal health information, personal identifiable information. So level 2, if you're familiar with the security classifications. So much better security than the free tools. There are some loose usage limits in there, but they tend to be much higher. The cost is not as much. Again, we're already paying for our Microsoft contract, and we're getting Copilot with that. We are also looking at rolling out Google Gemini in this basic enterprise tier. So it wouldn't be the paid for version of Gemini, but it would give you access to the basic version of Notebook LM behind a Penn State login. So we're looking very closely at that. And we actually just got approval from David Horton, the CIO, for that. And we will be starting our rollout planning for that. So listen for more about that early in spring of 26. I'm going to skip to the top line and then come back to the enterprise platform. So at the top level, these are your pro and premium licenses, whether it's ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini or Perplexity, whatever your favorite tool is. This is where you're paying, per month fee. It's anywhere from usually $20 to $30. You're getting very advanced capabilities. Those typically have data protections in them. They're doing a better job of protecting your data. At that paid level, and your usage limits are much higher. But now you're paying per person per month. And when you start to look at deploying these tools across the university, those numbers get really big really quickly. And there are certainly needs to use those licenses, but it's not financially feasible, we think, to purchase them university-wide. Now, I recognize that some universities have done that. So the California State System, for instance, bought ChatGPT for everyone. And I actually had an opportunity to meet with some of those folks a couple of weeks ago at the EdgeCast conference, and there's a lot of history behind that. Anyway, I think the other challenge with that, while it does give you those advanced capabilities, you have now selected one tool in a marketplace of multiple tools that are all advancing and that have different capabilities. And so if you start to need to use multiple tools because certain tools are better than others at certain things, now you're buying multiple tools per person, which again just is going to multiply this cost factor. What we see some of our peers doing, and these typically are our larger peers, is offering what I'll call an enterprise platform, where you can log in and have the ability to choose multiple models. So you could be chatting with ChatGPT, go to a drop down and say, no, I want to do Claude Sonnet. No, I want to do Llama, Mistral. You can host models on site. So if you have open source models, or you're even fine tuning your own models, you could host them on site in your own data center, make them available through this interface. And I'll show you kind of a picture of this interface in a minute. What's nice about this is now, instead of paying licensing for all access to all those models, we're paying for tokens. So you're doing chats. It's sending that through a broker like Microsoft or Amazon, where we have contracts to protect our data. You're getting that chat back, and you're having the experience like you're logged into ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini. But in the reality, we're just paying for the token usage. And so what our peers are seeing is that's much cheaper per person because not everyone's using all these tools all the time at the same levels. And so it's a lower cost. It's giving us strong security. The usage limits are something we can actually set, and I'll talk a little bit about that, is you can set limits, per person or by group. It's a little dangerous to not have limits on there because people can run up costs pretty quickly. So typically what a university will do is put some quotas on there. And some have also made it so certain people can have their usage tied to a budget so that if they go over a certain amount, it could be charged to a budget. So let's say a researcher who's doing research using this tool might have the ability to charge a grant for some of that work. And so the question is not like, which of these are we going to pick? The reality is we're going to have all of it. There will be some people still using the free tier. We're going to continue to offer the basic enterprise, Copilot, and soon to be Gemini. We'll have people purchasing the pro licenses, but we really should only be purchasing the pro licenses when the enterprise platform doesn't provide what we need. And again, this platform is not in place yet, so we've got a task force that's going to look at it. I'll have some more on that in a minute, but our goal is trying to hit the sweet spot for most people on that enterprise platform tier so that we minimize the amount of pro licenses that we need to buy. So let me kind of pause there. I'm going to take a drink. You look through the chat. Yeah, there's a question about people who are doing research on LLMs. So let's say they're using APIs. One of the things that we've seen in these enterprise platforms is the ability to get access to an API key if you're going to do development, and then tie that to a budget. And so there are some features in here. These platforms will allow you to build like assistants or custom GPTs and share those out. So there's a lot of capabilities built into these that for people who aren't doing the more kind of transformational work and writing code and doing APIs, that they can get a lot of value just from using kind of the basic capabilities within these platforms. Yeah, thanks, Meredith. On the research side, that's right. There's work on how do we host large language models internally on GPUs inside kind of the Penn State firewall on our hardware. What's nice about that is now we can expose those models within the platform, so people can use the same platform to access on-site models and those in the cloud. Okay, next slide, please. So it's just kind of a picture of how these platforms work. So the user will log into this shared user interface provided by the platform. That's where the security is done, the user management, cost management. You have really control over what features are offered at that shared platform. And as I mentioned, you're able to make API calls to get access to the results of the models as you put in API calls and get results back, and you're paying for tokens, and you're able to access multiple vendor LLMs. And then you can also access locally hosted LLMs. These shared user interfaces, they are a more basic user interface. So they're not exactly the same as what you would get in ChatGPT or Claude. There'll always be a little bit of a gap between the features that they offer in those in the user interface of those vendors. But it's going to provide a lot of what people need. So again, we're trying to hit that, what is that 80% that maybe most users are good enough with using. What's nice about this platform now, we're vendor agnostic, so we're not tied into any one particular large language model. You're paying for usage as opposed to licenses, and you can build in cost controls. You can support both research and academic needs by providing access to those locally hosted models. We administer the platform. So Penn State would administer the platform, which means we're controlling the security and the access and quotas and monitoring, as opposed to turning that all over to a vendor. And then we get data protections through our existing contracts with the hyperscalers. So we've got contracts with Amazon and Microsoft and Google, and we're accessing models through those contracts that give us the data protections that we're looking for. So that's just kind of a very basic architectural picture of these platforms. So, question is about these platforms: what are we going to do? And so we charged a task force just in the last few weeks by the provost, the senior VP for research, and the CIO with our recommendation of a platform and an implementation plan, including what the resource estimates are for this ecosystem. And a lot of it's focused on that platform layer. We have a presentation to the sponsors on December 19th, so we are moving pretty quickly. We're starting next week with some initial benchmarking calls with some of our peers who have implemented some specific platforms. The goal would be we get a decision on December 19th. We're implementing in early part of the spring semester. We're able to do pilots with a full deployment in fall of 2026. And so I'm assuming that every step of the process goes well. I mean, all this is dependent on how that presentation goes on December 19th, what the recommendations are, what the costs are, and those decisions. So I'm telling you what could happen if everything goes kind of how I would hope, but there's a lot of opportunity for this to go differently. And not to mention the marketplace and the tools are constantly changing. So we're trying to make our best decision. We recognize this is not a long-term decision. This is a 1 to 2 year decision. And as the marketplace evolves and tools evolve, we will likely have to change the mix of what this ecosystem looks like. But we're trying to do our best to make a decision with what we know about today and provide some basic capabilities to as many people at the university as possible. Next slide, please. So one of the things we're trying to do is not build anything. We're not trying to invent anything as much as adopt what some of our peers have done. And we think that's going to allow us to move much more quickly in implementation. We've got the task force has a broad range of participants. We've got faculty members, instructional designers, IT, security, lots of folks in there who are contributing, Commonwealth campuses and University Park. And we are very much looking at our peers and what their experiences are. And so these are the platforms that we're looking at. One is an open source called Open Web UI is one of the main components of it. There are some other open source components. Texas A&M and Duke have fielded using that kind of architecture. There's a commercial product called CloudForce's Nebula One. It's mainly built around the Azure hosting platform, but provides other access to other models. University of Texas and Washington have deployed that at scale. Vanderbilt has built an open source platform. They built a platform called Amplify and made it available open source. They don't have quite as large. I think Missouri might be the largest university that's deployed that in addition to Vanderbilt. But they've been at this for a couple of years, and it's a pretty robust platform. So we're going to take a look at that. And then we're going to talk to our friends at Pitt. They actually worked with a Pennsylvania company to build them a custom platform. I don't know if that's going to be the right fit, but we're going to talk to them. They've had that out for, I think, a couple of years now, at least 18 months, maybe 2 years. They've used PitGPT. And I will say Pittsburgh's also signed a contract with Anthropic to buy Claude licenses. So, and they're going to keep PitGPT. So back to that ecosystem concept, they have this PitGPT as kind of that enterprise platform, and they're looking at Claude licenses for that pro level, looking to purchase a significant amount of those. So it's a pretty dynamic environment, and we're trying to learn as much as we can from our peers. Okay, that was my last slide. I haven't had a chance to look at the chat. Yeah, Alan, it's a great comment about the feature changes. We have a hard enough time communicating out features that we control. It's even harder when the vendor's controlling them and we don't have that control. I would say that's maybe one of the advantages of the enterprise platform is our ability to control feature rollout. But then it's on us to be communicating that out. So absolutely, it's a huge challenge.
Well, I want to thank Crystal and Dave and Murdad for joining us today. Do we have any last questions for them before they, I don't know if they have somewhere to be, if they're going to stick around, but any last questions for Crystal and Dave and Murdad?
Yeah, we're happy to stay, Zach. We know the approach you planned as part of the pivot today
Mhm.
was a focus on some resources, but we're happy to stay and continue to engage.
Fantastic. Yes, I know the chat is very busy, so there are. I plan on curating a lot of these questions, and I'll share out the presentations and the recording after today's session as well. But it looks like Michael has a question. Michael Evans.
Thank you. I'm sick of typing after answering emails all day, so I thought I would talk. It's like a whole different world when we talk, right? So, hi, Crystal, by the way, nice to see you.
Hi, Mike. Nice to see you.
So, I do a lot of qualitative research, and I'm also an administrator in the Ross and Carol Neese College of Nursing. My question is, because I've heard different answers, are we allowed to put de-identified transcripts into whatever the faculty version of Microsoft Copilot is that I have to sign into, not the free version? I'm sorry, I don't know the right term.
Hmm.
To confirm the analysis I found. I'm not asking it to do the analysis and take away my original thought. I just want another set of eyes, or whatever it's called in AI.
So, Mike, maybe just a clarifying question.
Yeah.
What are the transcripts of? Maybe you said and I missed it.
Yeah, so nothing. No, I didn't. I'm sorry. I do a lot of educational type research,
Okay.
Crystal. I never left that theme. And also a lot of end of life research because I'm a hospice nurse by trade. But everything is completely de-identified. Age, even gender, names, anything. I'm just looking, so if I come up with a theme of incivility based on the transcripts I put in, could I use it to confirm? And I know sometimes it might come up with hostile instead of incivility, but to me that's still confirming. Like they're similar terms. Is that allowed? And if you don't know, that's cool too, because I know this is all new.
It looks like Suchi put in what is allowed in Copilot. So the version I think you mentioned, Michael, which sounds like moderate level 2 data. So I'm not sure if this would answer your question, but I believe she pulled this from AI guidelines. Does this help your question,
Oh,
Michael?
hold on. I got to find my mouse to find
Okay.
the chat.
But I can also give a short answer, Michael. We do the similar research, for example, just API call to these models, hallucination, bias, etc. As
Huh?
long as we comply with the software user ethics and compliance in research, that we don't upload personal data, etc., there is no issue. So,
There's no issue.
but
Because
as long as we follow the guideline that Suchi put here, because we treat it as a, software, that we
right.
should not upload personal data, etc., then as long as I know, it's fine. As Suchi mentioned here too.
I'm going to click on that policy so I don't lose it. But that's interesting because the College of Nursing hosted somebody from the IRB, and I'm sorry, I don't remember who, for the PhD students in the Nerd I Am. I went to it, and they seemed more against AI at this point till they learned more.
Michael, I think, apologize to interrupt. My name is Daniel
No.
Foster. I
Hey.
loved your questions because I think that we're uncovering, as faculty look to work to increase their capacity across all of our missions at the university, how do these compliance and ethics and different segments and systems that we have coordinate and discuss? Because that was the follow-up. So it would almost be helpful to have a flow chart. If you're going to use a new AI tool, first you go to accessibility, then you go to, do you submit, it's not courseware, but maybe I'm going to submit it over here for purchase through it's not courseware, but what was the other one? Anyway, see, I can't even keep track of the systems to get approval on the
Software.
sequence because they all ask for each other.
Right.
And then I need to submit my IRB application.
Right.
And you're right, Michael, I'm seeing a hesitancy from that outfit. And I think it's just about, are they a part of the conversation? If we're going to engage
Right.
in
And if
social
they don't
science.
approve it, I'm not doing the study anyway.
So how do we make sure that as we're exploring these tools, that compliance group of human subjects research is engaged with their concerns so that we could address them so that we don't just get told no.
Yeah, I completely agree, and thank you. And they brought them in for the PhD students because they're all using it in some fashion or another. So, thank you.
I will say, Mike, this isn't an answer to your question, but I will say that research compliance is involved in a variety of university efforts. I think there is increasing recognition that we need more training for researchers. And by researchers, I mean all people who are doing research, so especially maybe people who aren't doing research on AI, but people who are wanting, like yourself, to do research with AI. And what are the boundaries? What are the guidelines? So, like I say, that this has come up. This is the second time in a very short period of time, just as an example that this topic has come up, and this is a way maybe the coordinating council can elevate this as a growing concern, or something that we need to help nudge along from our various partners across the university. There's an AI ethics framework.
Courtney from Office of Research is leading it. I mean, David can also add and specifically on this aspect. And also I think we raised this idea of having a graduate level like SARI series course for graduate students doing research at the age of AI, something that we can teach students some aspects of using these tools for research. I think we should both work on the ethics, rules, compliance, and also awareness to have it.
That's something, I didn't mean to cut you off, sir, that maybe we're behind in, because when I go to conferences, people are sharing that this data or these results were confirmed through ChatGPT something or another. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I'm going to be quiet now. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. We will take your feedback. We hear that and appreciate the question.
Appreciate you guys.
Thank
I would
you.
just add that the rollout of these tools is going to present another opportunity to help people understand not only what tools are available, but what appropriate use of those tools are for different types of data. And I don't think we can do enough of kind of reinforcing those constructs. Go ahead, Chris.
Thanks, Dave. My thought as you're talking about rollout is the plan for some of our campuses to close in 2027, and thinking about as you're planning for enterprise scaling, allowing our colleagues at those campuses who may not be able to transition to a role at University Park or another campus to continue to have access for a period of time so they can continue to build their skill sets in deploying these tools. I'm thinking about a sort of second ring out in the Penn State family of helping people make that transition by having access.
Thanks for that comment.
Okay, if there are no other questions, I can run through some TLT resources in our last 10 minutes. And then if anyone has any questions about some of the things TLT is doing, I'd be happy to chat. Or if you'd like to share some of your AI resources or ideas, we can certainly drop those in chat, talk about those as well. Okay, so for those that have joined late or are not aware, we did have to update the agenda. The provost did have to cancel last minute for an urgent matter, but the AI Coordinating Council did present for the first half. This is recorded and will be shared out afterwards. And now we're just going to share out some of the things TLT have been doing or are currently still doing and will continue to do into the new year. Okay, so just a quick overview on TLT. For those of you who are not familiar with teaching and learning with technology, this is what we look like in the year 2025. So this top row here is going to be the 4 groups that make up TLT, we have faculty engagement learning design, a research team, a creative learning initiatives team is where I sit, and then operations and communications. The bottom row here are our 4 big buckets of what TLT, where most of our work falls under. And as you can see, artificial intelligence is just one piece of our story. But through this short presentation here, I think you'll see these other buckets sprinkled throughout as you see our work intersects over and over. But first thing is AI Horizons. So this community right here, and I want to thank all of you here today for making this community such a vibrant space. As of November 1st, we have over 1,040 faculty and staff and students in this space. And over 700 of you are active, which is fantastic for any type of community. We have people posting, asking questions. The community is answering each other, which I think is fabulous. And this QR code is not for you because you're already in this space. This is another slide I pulled from another presentation, but that just takes you to join this team. Okay, so I'm going to talk about 2 buckets of work here. The pink flags or orange, pink, red flags you see in the top right corner. This is going to be student-focused initiatives. And then I'll have another flag that will be for faculty-focused initiatives. But for the first student initiative I'm going to talk about is going to be Creative Labs. These are facilitated workshops that faculty can book with our team. They will bring their students to the Dreamery and will host a facilitated hands-on workshop that gets students creating music, coding video games, or building tabletop board games with AI. I'm just pulling up chat here. I see chat's going. I want to make sure I'm not missing anything. Fantastic. And just a few quick examples of what's the AI Game Lab. Students create board games on whiteboards. We provide them a bunch of resources on gaming elements. And Code Lab. So students are creating video games right now with AI. Everything you see in these video games are AI created, from the graphics to the code behind these games and the sound, which we can't hear right now, but these games have sound effects, they have background music, and it's all created with different AI tools. The second student initiative we just launched this semester is the AI Arcade. This was mentioned in the chat a little earlier. This is currently right now a physical in-person hands-on space in the Shields Media Commons. It is made up of 3 elements. We provide access to premium AI tools that are only in person. We currently have ChatGPT Pro, which is an upgrade from the Plus version. Suno and Midjourney. So we provide the premium paid versions for students and faculty, but they have to be done in person due to the policy, and that was chatted a little bit about in chat. We have created activities around these AI tools. So not only can you come play with these tools, but you can create an activity. This one I'm showing is Rewrite History. Students use Sora, which is a AI video tool inside of ChatGPT, to rewrite and create a video of a different version of history. And those games that I mentioned from the AI Code Lab. We take some of those games that students have created and we put them in the AI Arcade, because what's an arcade without some fun games to play? So here's a quick picture of what it currently looks like. 2 ways to engage with the space. You can walk up anytime. It is open, available, always online, except for after 5 p.m. when the building closes. We do have to adhere to our Shields locked door policy. Or you can book an appointment with a Media Commons consultant, and they can give you a brief overview of what this space is. Okay, so moving on to blue flags now. The blue flags in the top right indicate these are faculty-focused programming. And the first I want to mention is the Dreamery Speaker Series, which we had in the spring of 2025. I'm sure a lot of you have attended. We have another speaker coming next month in December. I have URL links to all of these slides, so when I share them out, they will be shared. But you can register for the next Dreamery Speaker Series. The December speaker isn't AI focused, but I believe she will have some AI stuff in there. But in the spring, we had over 210 of you come, representing 20 Commonwealth campuses. Another program, which I'm sure many of you have heard about or are participating in, but if you haven't, is the AI Enhanced Pedagogy Provost endorsement. We had 29 folks complete it last year, and we currently have 114 enrolled for this semester. This is an mostly asynchronous and synchronous experiences. It takes about 10 to 12 hours to complete. And at the end, you get an AI Provost certified certificate saying you've completed this program with that. And the next piece are our Teaching with Technology series. So if you're in the Pedagogy Provost endorsement, chances are you will have taken some of these. But you don't have to be in the Provost endorsement to sign up for these. These are also one-off programs and workshops that anybody can sign up for. You can see in the last 3 semesters, 282 faculty have attended these across 14 campuses. And this semester alone, we've already had over 111 faculty, and we still haven't counted the last 2 sessions, so that number will climb, and representing over 18 Commonwealth campuses. Okay, so I have a couple more slides here. I know we have 3 minutes left, so I want to save some time for questions. But Faculty Engagement Awards is going to be a cohort program where we award a small cohort of faculty access to tools. They get access to instructional designers and technology staff. And it's a multi-semester program where it's theme-based. So you can see the themes for 2024 and 2025 were similar, generative AI for teaching. But at the end of this program, they present a report on their findings of how they integrated these tools into the classroom and what they learned for that year program. And our last faculty focus program are our faculty fellows, which are usually awarded to a smaller number of faculty. It's either between 3 to 4 faculty every 2 years. 2 I want to call out right now are AI focus. So Dr. Tiffany Petrosini is embedding AI literacy within the communications basic course. So CAS 100, we're looking at AI literacy into that course. And Kyle Chalupzinski, I hope I pronounced that right. He will be our guest speaker for December AI Horizon. So I think we'll hear some of what he is doing. But his Faculty Fellows project is around AI chatbots in his MIS 204 course. So at the end of these Faculty Fellows programs, there will also be a report out. You'll usually hear more information at the TLT symposium if you attend those on these programs. And the last slide I have here is some research we're doing. So we're always trying to understand how AI is affecting our students. So a lot of these are Sarah Zip is doing some amazing research, and she has a research review on December 10th on Confessions of AI. Excited to hear more about that. But if you have any information on these research projects, definitely reach out to Sarah. We have 1 minute left. What questions do you have? Happy to stick around and answer questions. I do want to be respectful of everyone's time. So if you do have to leave, you're welcome to leave. I will stick around if you have questions. But thank you all for joining today and sticking with us. And please feel free to unmute if you have any questions. I have not checked chat yet, but I saw it was going pretty well.